You're watching 7 Action News, always taking action for you.
Well, you know we take such pride in our Great Lakes, and there's a push in Washington, D.C. to protect them from disastrous oil spills.
U.S. Senators Gary Peters and Debbie Stabenow are calling for a ban on shipments of crude oil on the Great Lakes.
Joining us today is Senator Gary Peters to tell us more about the bill introduced. But first, Senator Peters, would love to hear from you. What a historic day it was in Washington, D.C. What did you think today being there and hearing the Pope's message to Congress?
Well, it was absolutely incredible. Certainly, folks turned out. We had people on the lawn of the Capitol. There was incredible excitement as the Pope came. People along the way. Everybody was smiling. Everybody was happy. And of course, his message of bringing people together, being unified, and making sure that this country, the country that's about the American dream and everybody having a dream, is something we need to constantly be reminded about. And having the Pope deliver that message was very special to every one of us in the room.
Yeah, we were told you were instructed not to clap during his speech, but as soon as he said land of the free, home of the brave, you started clapping.
Yes. Yeah, it was hard. You know, folks wanted to try not to do that, but when he's saying things that are inspirational we agree with, it's hard to get folks not to show their enthusiasm. He had some standing ovations as well. That was a powerful speech by an incredible world leader.
Yeah, it really was. Senator Peters, all right, let's get to this bill that you introduced with Senator Stabenow. Talk to us about what it does. We're talking about banning shipments of crude oil on the Great Lakes. At least part of the bill requires that, correct?
It is. It's about protecting the Great Lakes from oil spills generally, and the concern is with some pipelines as well as shipping as a possibility. And so we are going to ban crude oil shipment on the Great Lakes. It is something that's simply unacceptable to have a spill there, which would be catastrophic. Just think of the Exxon Valdez and what happened in Alaska a few years ago. That would be horrible in the Great Lakes. And so it's not occurring now. People have always thought it's unacceptable, and yet we have someone in Wisconsin that wanted to open up a dock to allow it. Folks are thinking about shipping with some of the increased Canadian oil on the west side. We want to be proactive and say, no, we are not going to allow that on our lakes. And then we're also looking to increase safety regulations when it comes to pipelines, particularly Line 5, which is in the Straits of Mackinac.
Now, you mentioned there's really not that much shipping of oil going on right now. Is that what you're saying? There isn't. Crude oil is not. There are other refined products, but crude oil is not being shipped on the Great Lakes. But you're starting to see talk of that possibility with what's happening, and we want to shut that down now. It certainly, everybody I think agrees it would be unacceptable risk for us to allow that, and so by putting this in legislation is going to be important. That's why we've included that. Although the main focus of the bill deals with pipeline safety and to take a look and make sure that Michigan is what's considered a high consequence area. We've got Great Lakes. We know what happened when we had a pipeline break a few years ago in the Kalamazoo River, which we've already spent over $1 billion in cleanup. You can imagine what it would be in the Great Lakes, so it would dwarf that number.
I assume you're calling for this comprehensive review of hazardous materials pipelines in the region, as you said. That's going to take money, correct? So do you think you have a lot of bipartisan support for this, or are you going to get some pushback, and how will it be paid for?
Yeah, I think we're going to get some support. I mean, we've introduced this bill, but I'm actually working very closely with the Republican leadership. I serve on the Senate Commerce Committee that has oversight over PHMSA, which is the federal agency responsible for pipeline safety. They're actually up for reauthorization. In fact, next week we're going to have a hearing on that reauthorization. The many elements in this bill are things that I've been discussing with my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. We've been getting agreement, so I'm hopeful that we'll have many aspects of it will be put into the regulations. And one thing in particular that I'm going to be really pushing is that when you have a response plan, every pipeline has to have a response plan, that you also, and surprisingly enough, what's not in there is what do you do if everything is covered with ice? And so if you're looking at the Straits of Mackinac, that freezes over. It's very thick ice, very difficult to even get an icebreaker in there. It's difficult to clean an oil spill in the fresh water to begin with, and if it's completely covered with thick ice, it is impossible. And that raises questions whether or not we should even allow a pipeline to operate during those winter conditions when we know if there's an accident, we're not going to be able to do anything about it, which I don't think anybody thinks makes any sense whatsoever.
Senator Gary Peters, we do thank you for your time and keep us up to date on how the bill proceeds through its legislative process.
I will do that. Thank you so much.
All right, take care.